Welcome into Palmetto Sports Daily on this fine Tuesday. Caroline here, joined by Rick, Kevin, and Tegan. And guys, we're going to start the day up in Charlotte because the Charlotte Hornets are on a 7-game winning streak. It's their longest win streak of that kind since 2016. And I believe I saw a stat floating around on SportsCenter last night that they're one of the only teams that hasn't had an 8-game winning streak in quite some time, nearly 2 decades, something like that. So they've been playing really well, buzzing, you could say, up in Buzz City. A little bit of a weird weekend. They had some games moved around. On Saturday, their game got bumped up because of all of that winter weather out there. Same deal with their game on Monday, also got bumped up because of winter weather. But yesterday, hosting the Pelicans, and who else? Zion Williamson, back, one of his healthiest seasons he's been having so far, longest stretch of continuous games he's had without having an injury. So big deal for him. Also bigger deal for those of us in the upstate because this guy is from our area. Well, he actually was born and raised in North Carolina, but he attended Spartanburg Day School in high school. Kind of a legend around these parts, and then he went back to Duke in North Carolina before, of course, being picked #1 in the NBA draft in 2019 by the Pelicans. His Pelicans, though, could not hang on to a large win. They led by double digits in this game. The Hornets ended up coming back to win at 102-95 and extend that win streak I was just talking about. But Zion, while we're talking numbers, had a lot of people in the crowd because, of course, kind of a homecoming for him. So I'll let him talk about what he calls the numericals of his fans in attendance.
It's always a pleasure. Always, for me, an honor to play back in the Carolinas. And I did have friends and family come down. Every time I'm in Charlotte, people come down for me. But it's close enough to home where it is home. So, whenever, like I said, whenever I get a chance to play in Charlotte, it's always dope.
And how many people did you have come, and any shout-outs to any special people in attendance?
I gotta ask my mom that. I'll let her deal with the numerical value and stuff like that. Come on now, get me shit off. Let my mom deal with that stuff, and I just kind of focus on the game. But I feel like it's always 10 plus.
Well, somebody's got to get a hold of Mom and find out how many people he had there. Exciting for Zion, of course, to be back in the Carolinas. Also exciting at a double-double, 14 points, 11 boards. Of course, as we mentioned, his team was not able to come out on top, but always cool when there's a homecoming involved, right, Rick? Talk about maybe watching Zion a little bit, kind of around these parts in South Carolina, and then getting to see him come back in the Carolinas yesterday.
Yeah, it was great following him while he was in high school, playing there in Spartanburg. Just an amazing athlete. But I want to talk a little bit about the Hornets and their winning streak. This is good for the Hornets, for the city of Charlotte. When my son moved up to Charlotte it was the 2012-2013 season, the then Bobcats were coming off the worst season in NBA history, based on their winning percentage. And so they had a deal, buy season tickets for the upcoming season, and you get them for the next year free. And when my son told me about that, I said, okay, we'll jump on that. And, we've seen some bad basketball since then. We had season tickets for 2 years. Then when they got the Hornets name back, they went up on the price. I said, okay, I'm out. And then a couple of years ago, they hit me with a deal for half season tickets. But, man, the crowds have been so dead. Everything from the play of the team to the music they played during timeouts. And so to see some excitement back in the arena, hey, I love to see it. And maybe they can get back to the winning ways of the original Hornets when they had Alonzo Mourning, Larry Johnson. We'll see if they can keep it up.
Yeah. I took my kids up to a Hornets game a couple years ago when they were playing the Celtics, and the amount of Celtics fans that were in Charlotte was overwhelming. You would thought we were made the trip up to Boston and we're seeing them at the Garden because it was pretty much all green that day. So now to see Charlotte get a fun team, and this is a really fun team. This is among not the best teams in the league, but definitely the most fun. Con Knippel, I think, is probably the rookie of the year in the NBA, if not for Cooper Flagg over in Dallas. Knippel's been putting together amazing numbers. He's already broken Steph Curry's three-point record for a rookie in the NBA, and we're only in early February. So he's putting together a great season. It looks like he's been a fantastic pick, and I really think the way he moves the ball around has opened things up for LaMelo Ball a little bit, and then of course Brandon Miller's been doing a good job hitting his shots, and they've just got a good team all around them. I think they're probably one piece away from being a contender for one of the top 4 or 5 spots in the East, Tegan.
Yeah, I mean, it's nice to see the improvement this year, especially because my time, watching the Hornets, covering them a little bit, has been only the past couple of years, and they haven't been all that fun to cover. So it is nice to see a little bit of improvement this year, Rick.
Yeah, for folks who don't follow the NBA that closely or the Hornets, check them out because over the last few seasons, I thought they were one of the most exciting teams in the NBA. They can really get you out of your seat, but they have to stay healthy, and that's been a problem with them. With LaMelo Ball and some of their other key players, they get hurt and then they go into a nosedive. If they can stay healthy, watch out. The Hornets may even make a run at getting a playoff spot. All right, that's going to wrap up the first segment of Palmetto Sports Daily. We're going to take a time out and we're going to talk some college hoops. Welcome back to Palmetto Sports Daily. Following up our conversation with NBA in the opening segment, we are going to talk some college hoops. The Gamecock men on the road tonight at the University of Texas, and man, South Carolina needs something good to happen, and they need to happen quickly. Over the weekend, Saturday, they played at LSU, limited crowd because of the snow, and they lost in overtime, 92-87. They fell behind by as many as 13 points in the first half. They rallied. They were able to send it to OT, and they played better because their last time out, they were blown out by 47 points by the University of Florida. So they played better, but a game they needed to win because they beat LSU earlier this season in Baton Rouge for one of their 2 conference wins, and so now they are 11-11 and 2-7 in the SEC. Here's head coach Lamont Paris after that loss to LSU over the weekend.
Felt bad for the guys, grueling. I mean, 2 teams fought really hard and, both really wanted and needed to win, and just weren't able to do it at the end. We did make some plays. If you look at the real waning moments of the game, we did make some plays, and combined with some free throw shooting, oftentimes that's the difference in these close games.
Yeah, he mentioned free throw shooting there. They were 22 of 31 from the line, and not being able to connect, especially in overtime, really hurt them. So they're at Texas tonight, and if they don't turn things around, it looks like it'll probably be another losing season for South Carolina. Pretty sad for Lamont Paris and his team and the fans. Kevin?
The weather for the lack of the crowd that they had on Saturday, because I'm not sure even if it had been perfect weather outside in Columbia, I'm not sure they would have gotten a whole lot more people there to watch this game. We've talked before about how Lamont Paris' seat is probably getting pretty piping hot right now, but I wanted to ask you, Rick, and this was a question I posed to producer Nick on Saturday. If you take out Dawn Staley and the women's basketball team and the problems the baseball team, the football team, and the men's basketball team are having right now, is South Carolina the worst athletic program in the SEC right now?
Ooh, when you look at the seasons that that football had, that baseball had, and men's basketball, you would have to say among the power conferences, and you're looking at 3 of your big 4 sports, the Gamecocks have been right there at the bottom because they've underachieved. especially with football this year when you go into the season ranked number 13, and then baseball last year when you have Paul Maneri, who's won a national championship, multiple SEC championships. There's no doubt in your mind when he's hired that they're going to make the playoffs, and they don't even come close, and they set records for the most losses in the program history and most conference losses. So yeah, I would have to say they're right there at the bottom, which is a sorry state of affairs for USC athletics. But thank God for Don Staley.
Yeah, no kidding. I mean, on the men's basketball front, you kind of felt like things were maybe going to trend in the right direction with Michi Johnson coming back. And I mean, Eli Ellis has been a promising freshman, but I mean, it just seems like they cannot piece it together. But Gamecocks aside, the team down the road has been able to piece it together, and the Clemson Tigers. Clemson picking up its second straight win with a win over Pitt over the weekend, so they actually go back up. They dropped in the poll a little bit after an overtime loss to NC State from 18 back down to 22. They're back up 2 spots in the AP poll with that win, so they are sitting at number 20. Just a good all-around game for Clemson. I mean, they led most of the way and didn't really look back. The big guys did what they do best, all scoring in double digits. Nick Davidson and Carter Welling both having 12, RJ Godfrey having 10 points, and to top it all off, head coach Brad Brownell picked up his 200th win in Little John Coliseum. Also, kind of a strange home crowd for Clemson as well, with all of the snow and all that stuff going on Saturday. Coach already hit the 300 mark earlier in the year, back before the beginning of 2026, I should say, and now he's got another big milestone. So Coach excited about that, and of course excited about the fans and everybody that makes it all happen in Little John Coliseum.
I didn't know that. Yeah, I'm proud of it, obviously. That's a lot of wins. That's a lot of good players, a lot of good assistant coaches that have helped along the way. But, certainly proud of the longevity and just the consistency with which our teams have played. You need to have a good home court. We do. I think our students do an unbelievable job, especially the Grit Pit. And we've built a nice little fan base. And so Little John has become a difficult place to play. And in college basketball, I think that's critical. You have to have a good home court in order to be successful. Thankfully for us, we do here at Clemson.
Well, and to Coach's point there, the last couple games that I've been to, particularly the Miami game a couple Saturdays ago where Clemson beat them, they're both on big-time winning streaks. The crowds have been really electric. They've been great. They've known when to get involved and really helping this team that's on quite the run right now. 18-4 on the season, 8-1 in ACC play, right behind number 4 Duke in terms of the ACC standings, and they got a trip to California coming up this week, so they'll be at Stanford tomorrow, do a little bit of an extended stay, and they'll be playing against Cal on Saturday. Had to leave a couple days early for that trip. Kind of a weird thing when you got to go nearly all the way across the country, but Coach Brownell said he was excited for kind of having a different kind of road trip and squeezing 2 games into 1. So, Tegan, any thoughts on the Tigers and anything going on at Coastal as well?
Well, the ACC now stands for the All-Coast Conference because it's no longer all on the Atlantic coast. So, yeah, definitely some weird travel in there. But, yeah, I mean, good for Coach Brownell getting that 200th win. It's a new group of guys this year compared to last year. We knew that there would be some differences. I know there were some high expectations still. But, yeah, good to see them doing some good things. For Coastal Carolina, they're also doing some good things, some very surprising things. For fans who have been following this program for a while. The Chants have the most wins they've had since the 2021 to 2022 season. They're 14-10 on the year. They're 5th in the SBC standings. They're 7-5 in conference play, and they're coming off of a win against ULM. They had a kind of weird weekend, though, with the weather. Their game was moved from Saturday to Sunday, so they ended up playing then. They beat ULM. Not by as much as they should have. They beat them by less than 10, and this is a team with 0 SBC wins, but still a win nonetheless. Coastal Carolina getting ready to play Arkansas State tomorrow night. Arkansas State is in a similar boat. They are 13-10 on the year, 5-6 in conference play. But I had the chance to catch up with head coach Justin Gray of the Chants this morning to talk about kind of what they're expecting, what they're preparing to do. And one of the big things that he talked about was just his team needs to be a little bit more physical. They need to control the ball a little bit more. So here's Coach talking about some of those things.
You know, when you're talking about winning in tournament time, the referees sort of go away and the players make the plays. And so in that regard, you have to be physical with the basketball. You have to be physical at the point of attack on defense. You have to be able to finish in the paint with physicality, and you have to be able to defend with physicality but discipline and not fouling. And I think we sort of struggle with that at times. Sometimes we still foul, but I'd rather have to tone some guys down and teach them some discipline things to rather try to turn some guys up and trying to get them to play more physical.
And there are definitely some guys on this team that have stepped up. I mean, the big three that I've been talking about all season, Rashid Jones, A.J. Dantzler, Josh Beadle. A.J. Dantzler, the Lemoyne College transfer, had 32 points against ULM. It's a career high for him at Coastal. He reached that number at his previous institution. But big night for him. He also had 6 3-pointers. And Coastal seems to be doing really good from the field. I think they've gotten a lot of control in these games because of that. So, we'll have to see if they do that again tomorrow against Arkansas State. But Ark State is also a pretty physical team, so the Chants definitely have to prepare for that, guys. We've got to prepare to take a break here on Palmetto Sports Daily. We'll be back on the other side.
Welcome back into Palmetto Sports Daily. We've talked about a couple college basketball teams that are playing really well right now. We've got a couple more of them to throw at you. One of them being Clemson women's basketball, having one of its best seasons in quite some time, actually. Picked up their 3rd straight victory over the weekend against Florida State. Kind of a struggling Florida State team, but hey, a win is a win. They win it 77-58. Raven Thompson finishes with a high of 18 points. And then the Tigers were actually down one of their best players there, who you're looking at, Demira Hines. She's their leading rebounder. They didn't find out until right before the game that she wasn't going to be able to go. She's dealing with something. Coach Poppy expects her to be back and ready to go for this weekend, but Hadley Pierman steps in her place and snags a season-high 15 rebounds, so really wasn't a whole lot of drop-off there. But really the big point that we want to make is that Clemson is now 16-7 on the season, so with only 7 games left, that secures a 500 record for them, or winning record, I should say, for the first time since 2022, and that was also their 7th conference win that they picked up over Florida State, and that's already more than they had last year. So their overall conference record now 7-4 on the season. And Coach Sean Poppy basically saying post-game he doesn't really care about any of that, but he does care about this team and what he's seen from them so far.
Yeah, I mean, I don't look at that much. I just know this team can be really good. It's cool that we've done that. I think we've now officially clinched a 500 record. Like, all that stuff is neat. Don't get me wrong, but because we're trying to build this. But this team can be so darn special. My only focus is what's out ahead, because I think there's still a lot out ahead with this group, and proud that we've got to this point to put ourselves genuinely in the conversation this late in the season. So that's what I'm really focused on at the moment.
And they got a couple more resume building opportunities coming up. They got North Carolina on Thursday on the road in Chapel Hill, and then they will play number 20 Duke coming up in a couple weeks. But Tigers not the only ones on a hot streak. Rick, how about them Gamecocks?
Yeah, you can see the differences between a program like Clemson and South Carolina and the expectations and what will get the fans excited. You know, the Clemson women finishing with a winning record, hey, shows that the Tigers are on the move, on the way up. South Carolina, they win by 15 on the road in the SEC, and I was online last night, and some of the fans were griping. They were a little nervous because South Carolina didn't take control like they normally do against an unranked team. Texas A&M hit a 3 right at the end of the 3rd quarter, and South Carolina was leading by only 8 points. Their largest lead was 16. Now, one reason they didn't win as large as they normally do. Two of their starters were out, Tanaya Latson and Agat Makir. They were on the injury report. But you had some big games by the Stars. Joyce Edwards, she led them with a game-high 28. She scored 14 of South Carolina's 16 points in the fourth quarter to lock it up. And here's Don Staley talking about this whole thing of taking command, taking control of a game.
I mean, I don't think it was ever like under control, you know, for the teams that are in our league. For us, just turnovers, just unaware shot clock situation, bad spacing. Then they capitalized because they scored a lot of points on us when we turned it over. Like, you know, close to half of their points came from our turnovers, and that was their defense and their grittiness and their ability to stay locked in to try to get a win.
Yeah, it was a sloppy game. South Carolina had 17 turnovers. The Aggies had 18, and want to mention Tessa Johnson, who scored 17 of her 19 in the first half, including she was 4 of 4 on three-pointers. So the Stars came out for Don when she really needed them last night. All right, producer Nick says we're going to a break, and that's what we're going to do. Quick timeout, and we'll be right back to wrap up this edition of Palmetto Sports Daily.
Hey, we are running out of time here on Palmetto Sports Daily. Really cool story coming up tomorrow about a former College of Charleston basketball player who set the world record for most three-pointers made over the course of 24 hours. We're going to show you how he did it and why he did it. That's coming up tomorrow. For today, that's going to wrap it up for Palmetto Sports Daily. We will see you back here tomorrow.